Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back 500 Mile Podcast. My name is Justin Kolb alongside Michael Skinner. Got a little dirty out in Bristol this weekend, but before we touch on all that, had some stuff that went down the Thursday the last podcast came out. Some more penalties, because that's what this NASCAR world needs is more penalties. I think we had mentioned last week that the Byron and Bowman cars were both taken back to the R&D center for more investigation. And to nobody's real surprise, those two cars got slapped with another penalty. This time they lost 60 points, driver points, 5 playoff points. Their sub crew chiefs were suspended for 2 races, and they were both fined $75,000. Michael, as I said, I don't know that we should have been really surprised about this because as soon as you heard those cars were going back, you kind of knew what was going to happen. But what are your thoughts on this?
Uh, um, the one, this is the only thing I'll bring up with it because we ranted enough about it last week. So the one thing that I'll kind of just say is, did NASCAR take those those two cars back from the malicious intent? We will never know. The one thing that we do know that came out of this is that NASCAR now made it to where those penalties, you know, will never be able to be half and half, right? That's what came out of all of this is NASCAR made sure that those 50 points were going to stay there. Um, and so I think that is NASCAR's response to the panel. Do I think that is the best way to do it? And does it make them look kind of silly? Absolutely. But do I think in the long run that does benefit from teams doing something similar in the future? Absolutely. So if one good thing did come out of this, NASCAR kind of made a black and white rule a little more black and white, to where now the panel can't just split a penalty. They have to, it's either all or nothing. So I'll be curious to see how the Colleague kind of situation goes, and just kind of go from there. I know it was super interesting this week on his emergency podcast for Actions Detrimental, just kind of the behind the scenes kind of stuff that he kind of told us about. So if you haven't listened to it, listen to it. He gives really, really good information. His perspective, of course, we'll never get NASCAR's on it, but something that all of us, of course, didn't know how it works. So it is kind of interesting. And then, of course, another kind of nugget that came out of that is NASCAR is now going to show the teams the illegal parts. So all in all, I kind of knew, we all kind of knew it was going to go down that path anyways. Did I expect them to pick the Hendrick cars again for a random drawing?
It was not random. That's another thing we learned
No.
this time is that there's no longer random. It is
Yeah.
series director discretion. So
Yeah.
that's what I thought you were getting at first. But yeah, that's
So random.
yeah,
But when they were initially taken, it was random.
random.
Kind of like how the the tape on the 18 and the 11 were just randomly found under several layers of wrap. So, but yeah, they good things that came out of it, just to wrap it up real quick, the good things that came out of it is it puts the panel in a yes or no kind of situation. Like it can't be we're gonna give you this and not give you that. It's all or nothing. Which I think it'll make which is good, because I think it'll make it harder for the teams to justify their cases in that situation. I fully expect Colleague to continue to keep all of their penalty, by the way. They're just not going to get it back. So as that bad as that looks, I think that is the correct decision now that all this has been made. But I also think that it is good that we are now going to put those illegal parts in front of the other race teams to give them a look at why they were confiscated.
Indeed. Yeah, got our transparency back, which I think is the most important thing out of this whole black eye that NASCAR got. So, if anything, some good came out of it. Just to put a bow tie on the Hendrick penalty, that was relating to the greenhouse area where the windshield wiper motor is. Obviously, we don't know all the details, but from what we heard from Bob Pockers, that is the area in question where they got hit with the random draw and the random penalty. So, With penalties, of course, the day after or the day that the podcast came out last week, the Denny Hamlin appeal had come out. That was upheld. Kind of no surprise there, but you kind of discussed already that Hamlin on his podcast went over in about 30 minutes what went down and kind of the confusion with that. So, um, again, out of all the black eyes that NASCAR got out of this, we got our transparency back, which is, I think, the thing I was screaming about last week, and I think both of us were really. But I'm glad we got that out of the way. So that is all with penalties that we have to go over here. Real quick as well, the news had dropped today that the Golden Boy, Chase Elliott, coming back. He'll be racing at Martinsville this week and will get a playoff waiver. That in itself is not surprising, but good to have him back in the seat. Just want to give a few stats on Josh Berry, though, because, I mean, in his 6 week stint in that car, he had 1 top 5 finish and 2 top 10s. And for a guy that had never been in a next gen car up until Las Vegas, his first start, that's, I mean, just to put it simply, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think he did a fantastic job. Definitely deserves a chance, to be in a good Cup car. But the kind of problem that lies there is how many good Cup cars are out there floating around. So super impressed by the things he did. I think he did the most important things. He didn't crash. He made sure the car came back intact. I think that's the most important part when you're filling in for somebody is not, even though Chase isn't in those race cars, that team is still learning from being at the racetrack, right? They're still building that notebook. Whether whoever's driving that car, I mean, we kind of saw at California this year with Kyle, because they had that notebook. It wasn't his notebook, but that same car was still out there to go out there and able to perform. So, I think Chase is going to come back swinging. I think Bob Pockra said today, I think he'd have to average 35 points the rest of the year to make it to the top 16. So that will be extremely interesting to see. If he doesn't get that win, he'd have to score an average of 35 points a race, kind of with how with the average of the past couple years going for that final 16th spot. So I think we're going to see a different kind of Chase Elliott. I think we're going to see a more aggressive Chase Elliott because his only chance at making the playoffs is probably going to be a win. So definitely something to look at.
For sure. All right, well let's just get straight into the Bristol weekend here, and I'm just gonna get flat out honest with y'all. I really didn't pay much attention this weekend. Saturday, the truck race. I know that Joey Logano pretty much dominated that race. It was on. There was not much attention paid towards it, and I'm gonna be straight up honest with you. Easter Sunday, the race was on, but as I kind of told Michael, I feel like this is the same way it was in a lot of households. Maybe more different
Especially
than
on
mine.
the West Coast.
Yeah, I was gonna say, especially on the West Coast, being the 3 hour time difference, it was on, but it was more background noise than it was actually watching it. Like, don't get me wrong, we did sit down and watch parts of it, but it was not something that I can say that I was actively in tune to. So, with that, a few questions about that race, and some of them already kind of answered indirectly. Start out here first, and I want to get your opinion on this, Michael. You already kind of know mine. Racing on Easter. Do we still need to do this? Yes or no? Okay, so we're in agreement with that.
No, I this is the sad part, right? Is I 100% truly believe that this was just a NASCAR thought that this was going to be a ratings cash cow, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And I think it has utterly and absolutely backfired. Not only is it a gimmick race on a concrete filled racetrack that even dirt racers don't seem to particularly enjoy it. Having it on Easter, there's nothing else on Easter, so they're trying to get that ratings bump, and yep. I think it's just absolutely failed. The drivers, from the sound of it, seemed upset, and it's dumb. It's dumb. We shouldn't be racing on Easter. We shouldn't be. This needs to be an off weekend. Let these drivers spend time with their families. I think this schedule is too long as it is. Um, I think it needs to be a little shorter, and the fact that we're racing on a holiday, like that, where they need to be with their families, man. I mean, it's family's the most important thing. Racing comes second, and right now, they're NASCAR is chasing these ratings so bad that it's kind of disrespectful, I think, to the drivers, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean that's fair, and I mean that's the only really thing you can say about that. The fact that it was so funny too, because so many people said that when they saw the stands, how they weren't, they were pretty dead, if we're being honest with you. And I don't think anybody expected anything different for a holiday, a race on a holiday. But that's what everybody kept saying, was that they were just chasing the ratings, and even that they were down. They had 3.5 million viewers on Sunday, and that was down from 4 million from last year. So, I mean, even then, the ratings 3.5 is still okay, but I mean, you're still down from a year prior.
Yeah, and I think that, man, and I think one of like the biggest things too is I kind of brought it up last week. Why do we continue as a series to just make bad decisions? Right? It rains every year at this Bristol race. Something is rained out every single year, right? Maybe somebody with a higher power or some magical universe being, whatever you believe in, maybe they're trying to tell NASCAR, stop having it on this weekend, right? Maybe move the date completely. I mean, every year we talk about it. Every year we talk about this Bristol, you know, the first Bristol race attendance. It's always bad. It always sucks. Why? Because it fucking rains. How about we just move it away from here? Have a nice Easter off weekend. Put it in, I don't know, May. Put it right before the All Star race. That'd be great. Um, yeah, it's stupid weekend. They need to move this race. They need to take the dirt off of it, and maybe the fans will come back, because the nonsense that they're doing now is just making it worse.
Yeah. And I mean that kind of goes into my next question, which you kind of already answered. But the dirt on Bristol. I mean, even before the start of the race, I just flat out wasn't into it this year. Like I knew what we were getting into. I'm just the whole time I'm watching the race, I don't really think that we need to be doing this anymore. Like twice, okay. I mean, I guess, but the third time around, I feel like the mood at the track was everybody was kind of over it already. All the drivers were, and I was kind of in the same boat. I was ready to move on from dirt because, everybody already said that this car, it was a gimmick race, a gimmick to put it on dirt. Well, sure, it looks cool. It's not a real dirt car, so I don't understand really why we're doing it anymore. It sounds like we're not going to do it anymore, just based off the fact that they made some points on Door Bumper Clear that normally ticket sales are announced that week or that race for next year. That wasn't done, but you could just kind of tell by, I think Marcus made some comments. Marcus Smith made some comments at the beginning of the week, or I guess closer to the race, maybe Thursday or Friday, just about whether they were going to continue to do this, and even he was unsure. And that just the way he kind of explained that told me that we probably weren't going to do this next year. And it sounds like we're both on the same page that we're ready for the dirt to go away. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think Kyle Larson put it the right way, and it's not
Exactly.
that
That was
it's
best quote of the weekend.
it's not that I don't think. I think it's maybe one too far. It's not that I don't think it doesn't have a place. I just don't think that it has a place for the Cup Series, and I especially don't think that it has a place for it at Bristol. Um, those are kind of just my two opinions. I kind of talk to you maybe every other years, every 2 years or so, maybe run it for like the Clash or something.
Yeah.
Find a local jerk track that works, and then take the Clash there. Just something along that line. If you want to continue it down that, but honestly, man, this race kind of just doesn't mean anything. Um, it kind of like Denny Hamlin said, for the past what, month and a half ish, it's like Denny Hamlin put it right on his podcast, in my opinion. When do we actually get back to NASCAR? Like, when do we start being NASCAR again? We've had a road course, a dirt track. It's like that's not what NASCAR was built on. When are we going to actually get to go back to what our sport was all about? And I understand that dirt was a part of NASCAR's history, but I'm pretty sure that they weren't these types of race cars either. Um,
Yeah.
in my opinion, if Kyle Larson doesn't think it's a good idea, um, I think we should listen. I mean, the guy just put on a spectacular show with his own series with High Limit last night. It was sold out. I mean, the stands were packed. I mean, if anybody knows about dirt racing and anybody's going to get behind Kyle Larson, it's going to be the dirt fan base, and none of them show up. So maybe it's not good.
Yeah. But you do make a good point, with maybe making it a bi-annual event or something like that. That's I guess the main problem I have is we're doing a dirt race that is for points, which right off the bat isn't great. But then at the same time, you're doing it at a place where sure it kind of works, but it's not a purpose-built dirt track. So you're kind of just putting everything together and holding it together with scotch tape. It feels like you're just trying to make something work that really shouldn't. So yeah, I mean, if we're gonna continue this dirt race, let's not make it for points because we don't really need to be doing that. B, let's take it to a purpose-built facility. I don't know if we're going to Eldora anytime soon, just because I don't know if the wounds have healed on that yet. But I mean, anywhere you can take it has to be better than Bristol dirt. I don't think we should be throwing dirt on top of a concrete track and calling it good. Um, Definitely need to be taking it somewhere that belongs. Where that is, I don't know yet, but I don't know
Listen,
if NASCAR even knows that.
I'll say this. I watched the whole race. I thought it was a good race. I'm not saying it was a bad race. I thought it was a good race. I thought it produced a good race to watch. The broadcast wasn't great. NASCAR kind of just stopped throwing cautions at some point in time, and then decided they were going to throw cautions again.
Yeah, it was the
But
biggest
like,
problem of the night.
yeah, but like, it wasn't a bad race. I thought it was pretty good. But I just think that there's better places to go than Bristol. And then it costs so much money to do that. Right? That's what boggles my mind is we're spending millions and millions of dollars to put dirt on a racetrack that is perfectly fine the way it is. And then why not take those millions, go invest in an actual whatever dirt track NASCAR wants to, take those 10, $11 million that it takes to do this every year, and then put money into that facility, and then let's go dirt race at an actual dirt racetrack. Or
Sounds
let's
simple.
cover, or let's cover, what is it? Iowa. Cover Iowa and dirt. We'll go there.
I mean, at that point, you might as well because that place isn't getting used for anything. They just let that place out to rot, which sucks.
I mean, like that's kind of my point, though. Like, it's just, yeah, not, and it's sad because, like I said, it's not like it was a bad race. I thought it was pretty good. Man, I thought the last few laps were pretty good. Once the track slicked off, the dirt guys really kind of came to fruition there. But like, how many times do you want to just see a dirt guy go out and win? Because that's what's going to keep happening. In the first year, they didn't get the track prepped right, right? Um, so you had a non-dirt winner because the track drove more like an asphalt track. As they get better, the track is going to become more like a dirt surface, and it's going to get better, right? That's why I think the racing was better in this race. But my problem with that is that those guys that are good at dirt are just going to continue to win these races as we would have seen last year and we saw this year. That trend will continue to go on. And is it really worth these drivers going and putting so much effort into a race that's one race a year that nobody shows up to?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you had mentioned the All Star format. What are some of your ideas? Maybe that we can do with that.
Kind of like kind of like, we go into North Wilkesboro. Why not have tracks that we switch off of for the All-Star race? I think that, we should kind of like the Clash, jump around. Like, that's our opportunity to make NASCAR and take it to wider audiences, right? You take it to non-points event, so it means nothing. Put a purse out there, let them go enjoy it, and just kind of give new fans or different fans that type of experience. I think if you want to go to a dirt track, right? Give them if you and I'm going to say this, right? For the All-Star race, you don't want to have one of those massive fields, right? But one thing I think that you want to do is you want to eliminate cars, right? The reason that they have so much disaster is because they have 40 cars out there that aren't the size of sprint cars, right? I think they have like 25, 30 sprint cars every weekend on, you know, quarter mile tracks that don't, run into each other. They're small. They're not the size of a stock car. So even if it's on a half mile, you still put 40 stock or 36 stock cars. That's just too many. But I think if you do it in an all-star format, heck, let everybody race, right? Make it an actual all-star race. The best of the best, run your features, top 6 advance. If you don't advance, you don't make it. I mean, kind of like the Clash, right? Do that same type of thing. Make it a actual all-star race, and then maybe it doesn't become such a gimmick. Maybe it becomes more of a, like Denny Hamilton, more of a novelty thing, right? It's not every year, but when it does happen, you maybe look for it a little bit more. You know, so I mean that's kind of my opinion on it. I'm always for trying to make the sport better, make the sport more interesting, and maybe those are the things that we need to try to do. Not make this gimmick thing an every year event that fans clearly aren't going to after 1 year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they tackle it from here. All star format, obviously not a bad idea. See where they
Speaking
go
of the All
from there.
Star format, the Pit
Oh boy.
Crew Challenge is
Yes.
back.
Back.
Let's
Thank
go.
God. And it's a pivotal like role
Oh,
in the
I
actual
love it.
all-star race.
I love it. I love it. It's never gonna be. I love the All Star. I love the All Star format this year. But the one thing I do miss, and I will forever miss, that we'll probably never see again, is those stock cars just barreling down pit road at 100 and something miles an hour.
Yeah.
Oh, it was beautiful. But this is a really, really good alternative. Love getting the crews involved. I think Junior's right. They're an integral part of the team. How many times over the last 2, 3 years have we seen pit crews win a championship?
Yep.
So they're all stars themselves, and I think putting them in pivotal roles for the All Star race for that $1 million, which I think should be at least 5 at this point. Um, I think it actually means something. So I'm super stoked.
Same. I had been asking for years to bring this back and it finally happened. I'm going to hold or I'm going to reserve some judgment cuz I want to see how this actually is going to work, but the way that they made it sounds like it's going to be back, but um like I said, I'm going to be waiting to see how they exactly do that to say all my what I want to say, but I'm glad we at least have that back. Got some heats to race your way in for that All Star race, and then what is it? 200 laps can't change.
Yep.
Or I guess you have one more set of tires you can change after lap 100. So they did a good job with it. I'm glad they listened to Junior on a lot of this. So it's gonna it's gonna be a good All Star race, as they kept saying though, and I've mentioned here before. This first All Star race at this track is gonna be all about that track finally getting back out there. So even if the show isn't great, which I think it's going to be, it's going to be hard not to put on a good show there. It's going to be a big night for that track, just having everybody, back there. I'm sure it's going to be emotional for some, but the month of May is looking very good for the county of North Wilkesboro. That's for sure. Um, I know that track is already sold out, but I saw some tickets on like StubHub going for $3,000. It looked like. So if you don't already have your ticket, good luck.
Right. Um, so yeah, and I think that's one of like the kind of downfalls is you have people that that kind of do that and take up those seats that don't actually want to go. So I think that hurts a little bit. But yeah, man, looking forward to it. Track looks really, really good. Love the effort they're putting into it. Uh, just a kind of news nugget to go along with that. I want to get your opinion on race day coming back for some more weekends this year. I know you probably didn't get a chance to watch it on Sunday, but Brought back a little bit of nostalgia.
Was
John
that
Roberts and Kenny Wallace were there.
was that televised, the race day revival, or was that just at the track?
Uh, I think it was streamed.
Okay,
I saw some of it on YouTube
I'll have
a
to check
little
that out.
after, but I know it's going to be at additional weekends
I think it's
for
gonna
the
be at
rest of the
Gateway.
year.
I know.
Yep, Coke 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway, Quaker State 400 at Atlanta, the Crayon 301 at New Hampshire Motor Speedway, Bass Pro Shops Night Race for Bristol. Actually, it's not at
Wow.
Gateway. Auto Echo Park Automotive 400 at Texas. I don't know why we'd ever do anything there.
Yeah,
And then the Bank of America Roval 400 at Charlotte. Uh,
that's a lot.
yeah, I think it's good, man. I think the fans have really showed up. You know, if you take a look at a few of the videos that Kenny Wallace posted on his Twitter page, man, the fans were in full force. Love to have him back, and you know, hopefully when we roll into to 2024, we'll have him back full time. But I definitely think it's something that we've needed, you know, just to kind of spice up the day.
Oh, for sure. And I'll be checking that out at some point tonight. I'll have to hunt that down. But I mean, that's what you want at the racetrack, man. You want one of those live shows with the fans in the background. You need that sort of energy at the racetrack because I mean, all we have now is that virtual studio in Charlotte. Which don't get me wrong, I love the analysts they have in there, but that doesn't give you
Well,
the life at the track
yeah,
like
man,
those
no,
shows did.
you need that atmosphere.
Yeah,
Um,
all they need back is Jimmy Spencer, and they'd be rock solid.
that would be good. To So we're gonna go back from race day. I'm gonna lead into another topic too. We have a few new additions to the 75 greatest drivers in NASCAR history.
Yep.
Over the weekend, we have starting and when they were announced. Tony Stewart, of course, he's a three-time Cup Series championship who found success behind the wheel of a stock car as a driver and an owner. Stewart joins the 75th anniversary roster with 49 Premier Series wins. He is 15th all time on the wins list. Stewart won Cup titles for Joe Gibbs Racing in '02 and '05, then added the 2011 crown on a tiebreaker while driving for his own Stewart Haas Racing team. Then after that, it was announced that Casey Kane, the popular Washington native, turned his promise as a top prospect into a 15-year Cup Series career that produced 18 victories. Kane was named the Series Rookie of the Year in 2004 and went on to notch three triumphs in Crown Jewel Coke 600, and also a Brickyard 400 win in there as well. Then
Going
next
three
is
wide with
a
Jimmy Johnson blowing up. Sorry.
correct. The next two I think are humbled but extremely well deserved. Because again, this is NASCAR greatest 75, not just Cup Series. The next is Mike Stefanik, a versatile driver who made a name for himself as a modified tour standout. Stefanik became a NASCAR Hall of Famer in the class of 2021. The Rhode Island campaigner won 7 championships in the modified competition and added 2 more in the former Busch North Series. He was also Rookie of the Year in the Craftsman Truck Series in 1999. The next and final that has been recently added to the list would be Randy LaJoie. LaJoie competed in all 3 NASCAR national tours, but found his greatest success in what is now called the Xfinity Series. His 2 Xfinity Series championships came in consecutive years, 96, 97, and 3 of his 15 career wins came in the prestigious season opener at the Daytona International Speedway. LaJoie also claimed the 1985 title on the former Busch North Circuit. So congratulations to them. Extremely well deserved. Uh, you know, I think all of them have been, you know, instrumental to the sport in one way or another. I will like to point out that, uh, you know, I think Randy LaJoie, outside of his driving career, has made a major impact uh,
Absolutely.
on NASCAR as well with his racing seats that keep some drivers safe. Um, and I believe that, you know, his are affordable enough to that a lot of these short tracks guys are running LaJoy seats. So, like I said, extremely well deserved, and I'm looking forward to see the next few that are going to be added onto the list.
For sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
Also, the way it's going to be revealed, it'll be 1 edition per day, 5 per week for the next set of 25 drivers in the weeks leading up to Throwback Weekend at Darlington Raceway, where the entire group of 75 will be honored.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, Tony Stewart a no-brainer on there. Casey Kane, while his career didn't finish out great, back from 2004 to I guess all the way up to 2017 when he got his last win at Indy. Didn't get a ton of wins, but I mean he was up front almost every week, contender week in and week out. So good to see him on that list. Obviously Mike Stefanik, I don't know that we have a lot of experience, watching him, but his history speaks for itself, as well as Randy LaJoy, his 2 championships in Xfinity, as well as the C Company, as you mentioned. I know he does a lot to keep drivers safe with that company and does a fantastic job there. So, yeah, a great list of guys there. I'm looking forward to seeing who gets announced tomorrow, and then I guess we'll have to wait until Sunday or sometime next week to continue that list. So, definitely looking forward to tomorrow to see who gets the nod next for that.
Um, yeah, I think this is one thing that I will say is I think that it is great that we're doing we're doing the 75 greatest drivers. One thing that I'll say is um, the drivers aren't the only ones that are on the race team. The one thing that I would like to see is in the future maybe do NASCAR 50 top 50 crew chiefs. I think that would be a pretty cool list with some really cool names that maybe a lot of people don't know about. So um,
Yeah,
maybe something like that will be put together soon. But I think this is a great list. Good additions, and I'm excited about what's going to be next. I'm hoping that uh, a few of our drivers are going to be added to this list, and we'll kind of see where it's at from there.
for sure. And I am glad that they didn't just go straight into the more well-known drivers of today. I'm glad that they went deep in the history with Mike Stefanik and Randy LaJoy as well. I'm glad that they're painting a broad brush rather than going over maybe the last 25 years or something like that. So I'm glad that we're giving the chance to everybody here. So good to see that.
Also, just want to say real quick, we're gonna touch on the subject super quick, but Zane Smith will be in the 51 car for obvious reasons at Martinsville, so I think it's a good opportunity for him. Um, but I think that's all. We'll kind of touch on that subject.
Yes, and I mean you had made the point. Obviously we know that Zane Smith is in the car this week. Kind of curious to see what happens long term here. Whether they keep Zane in that car, maybe give Todd the seat back in the 38. Obviously we'll have to wait and see what all happens with that. But that's obviously a fluid development as we move forward here. We're only in week 1, so I don't know that Rick Ware really knows what he's doing. So don't want to speak on behalf of him. We'll just have to wait and see what happens week in, week out. All we know is that Zane Smith is in the 51 this week. All
I
right.
think it's a good choice.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Fantastic choice. I almost feel that he may just skip the Xfinity series altogether at some point and just move straight into Cup. Maybe as early as next year. Because I mean, I don't know about you, but he is showing that. I don't know that he's fully ready for Cup, but he's definitely ready to move on from the Truck Series at this point. He's showing it week in and week out at this point.
Yeah, I think he's well deserving. Definitely, like I said, definitely a good choice. It'll be interesting to see what they do with the 51 and the 38 kind of going forward to see if they're going to bounce back and forth between teams or if they're just kind of rolling to and stay where they're at now. So that'll be something interesting to move on. One thing that I do want to kind of talk about over the weekend, I know you didn't watch a lot of it, but how do you feel about Priest's comments after the Bristol dirt race after what happened with Denny Hamlin? What's kind of your opinion on that?
I mean, I'm not surprised. We knew that was going to happen. It's a shame that it has to happen, but all I can say is that I hope it gets better with time. I honestly don't even know how you really do that. I guess maybe one guy just has to kind of speak out again, and maybe NASCAR reacts differently. I don't know, but that's my only hope is that this kind of can get better with time, or NASCAR puts out some statement saying, okay, here's what you can do and here's what you can't do. That is the least likely of things that I think is going to happen. But I mean, I don't really know how you move forward from this because this is a very awkward and sticky situation to say the least at this point.
Yeah, the one thing that I will say that I don't think any of us have really ever kind of thought of is, um, Denny Hamlin brought it up on his podcast that, I don't know what kind of insurance that NASCAR has for those type of situations, but maybe they can't have drivers openly come out and saying that they wrecked somebody for insurance purposes wise. But honestly, that's the only thing I can think of why it would ever be an issue. Um, and another thing I want to touch on too is like I think Denny Hamlin is 100% correct on his analysis of Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson is that type of person that puts you in the positions to where you're either going to hit the wall and lift. We've seen it several times. I think that's similar. Even though he said he didn't see, but I think he put Chase Elliott in that same exact situation at California, last year. There's been several times where we've kind of seen that. Austin Dillon even kind of did to Kyle Busch, his teammate, this week at Darlington or this week at Bristol. Also, you know these drivers are making you make a decision on if you're going to put yourself in the wall or not because there is no repercussion, right? Larson said, he thought they could be grown-ups about it. Well, you just put him into the fence when he's having a top 5 run, which he hasn't had this year.
Yeah.
Um, I would be upset. I mean, I don't know why you'd think that would be okay. Um, but yeah, I
I
think I
don't think
think it
there's a
is.
single person in that garage that'd be okay with just getting run in the wall like that.
No, and I think that it's good that Denny kind of called him out on it. And it's not like Denny hasn't done the same thing, but it's going to continue to happen uh, if we keep seeing situations like this where they can't retaliate and they can't speak up about it. So that's kind of my one concern. There is drivers are just going to continue to putting each other into the wall, and I think it's just going to bring up a big situation. But I did think it was interesting with the aspect of NASCAR's insurance policy and things like that, and what they can and can't say, and vice versa.
Yeah. Well, just hope that I guess that situation gets a little bit better with time. B&B people start getting more and more open, but obviously right now their lips are going to be sealed with the zipper. So, guess we'll wait and see how that goes. Anything else we want to
Right.
talk Bristol before we move on to what looks to be a wet weekend at Martinsville?
No, I think we covered it pretty good. Like I said, overall, I thought the Cup race was a really good race. Do I want it back? No, I can enjoy something and not want it to come back, and that's okay. The truck race too short. Drivers were too inexperienced. Too many cautions. They'd run like 3 or 4 green flag laps. It kind of felt like a fixed C class race in a truck at Martinsville. You run 3 laps caution, 3 laps caution, and the race just kind of never got going.
Fair enough. Well, speaking of Martinsville and I guess Class C, let's move on to the Truck Series race that probably isn't going to happen on Friday night. Got the weather pulled up here, and it looks like Friday has a 91% chance of rain. So
That means we have
that,
91% chance of rain tires.
well, yeah, I don't. Depending on how bad the rain actually is, I don't even know if they'll get out there to put them on. So
No, I just want to see it. I want to see it.
Michael
Oh,
just wants to
um,
see the
the downfall. Oh,
yeah.
I want to see somebody driving a turn one and just not go anywhere. One thing I do before we get to the weekend, I do kind of want your opinion on the traffic situation for the Chicago street course. I don't know if you read anything about that. It's going to last a month
I saw that. Yeah,
in Chicago. The street course will begin on June 2nd and last until July 15th.
like
I
June
don't know.
2nd.
I don't know if you've ever been to Chicago and where they're having the race at, but oh my god, let me tell you.
I
Oh
know it's a
boy,
very busy part, but June 2nd, they're setting that track up a
June.
whole month ahead of schedule. Yeah, no wonder it's going to cause traffic issues. That
Uh,
race is going to
so
be on July 4th weekend. They're setting it up June 2nd.
well, this
Like,
this is
granted, they
how
need
this
time, but
this is how it's gonna be. This is how it's gonna be broke down with that timetable. So I'm assuming it says parking restrictions begin, right? So I'm assuming the parking restrictions will be rerouting traffic for the first 2 weeks of June. Then it goes into Sunday, June 25th, beginning at 12:01 a.m. The closure of Jackson drive between Michigan Avenue and Columbus Drive, and closures of Columbus Drive between Jackson. So it looks like starting Sunday is when they're going to start closing the roads. So Sunday, June 25th until probably 2 or 3 days after the race is when the roads are going to be completely shut down. And from what it looks like, it's kind of going to go in the same type of thing. So after the race, uh, what is it, July 2nd? You said after the race on July 2nd, they're going to reopen back up Michigan Avenue and Columbus Drive, and then kind of go on that same pattern. And then eventually the parking and the roads will be fully open on July 15th.
Yeah. I mean, the more and more I hear about this, it's just more reason for people to complain, more reason why we're probably not going to have this next year. So, I mean, that's all I really have to say about that. I know that the people in Chicago weren't entirely thrilled that they were going to have their, I guess, their most popular park shut down for July 4th weekend. I know the city wasn't very happy about the deal that went through with all this. Um, I this is just each time I hear about this is just sounding more and more like a one and done deal. So, like I said, we'll have to wait and see what happens with the actual race. But everything surrounding it does not sound great for NASCAR right now.
Yeah, I know we kind of touched on the Chicago street course here and there over the past year since it was announced. But yeah, I saw that. I think it was posted on Friday or something like that, and then that final breakdown actually came out yesterday per CBS Chicago. So I wanted to kind of get your opinion on it and put some record down to see like where it stands. But yeah, very yeah, it's going to be a lot of work, and I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of unhappy people um, in Chicago.
Why didn't we do this in like downtown Charlotte or something like this, like an actual racing city?
Or, or why don't we just have it at an actual road course?
I mean, yes, but I'm just saying if we really wanted to do a street course, I don't. Why are we doing this in a market that probably really doesn't care about racing? Like maybe they
Um,
have more information than I do, but I mean, I don't hear a lot of people like clamoring like, "Oh man,
yeah,
NASCAR is going to be in town this
I'll give
weekend."
you, I'll give you a few examples. Why do we have 9 road courses on the schedule? Why do we have a playoff system? Why did we create the chase system? Why did we invent the clash
All right.
on a football field?
All
Why did
right.
we
All right. All right.
create a dirt race?
I got
All
it.
right,
I got it.
you
I
see
got
my
it.
point.
I
I
got
don't
it.
think NASCAR knows at this point because right now we're just throwing darts at the wall.
I
All
got
right,
it.
all right. I think I'm going to create a dartboard of all of NASCAR's nonsense and actually use it as a dartboard.
I will just say that some of these things stuck, like the Clash of the Coliseum. That's been a pretty okay event, but the fact that it sounds like nobody really wants this race to happen is the part that concerns me. The Clash is completely different because they can just shove that inside of a football stadium and that's fine. That doesn't really affect anything. But the fact that we have to close down pretty much the entire city of Chicago to put these 40 stock cars on the track that probably no one's even going to go to anyways because you're charging. I guess I can't even complain about the tickets. I guess because I think it was like $250 for the weekend, which doesn't sound great, but I mean, I think you're getting access to the Cup, Xfinity race, and there's an IMSA race in between there. Am I right on that?
Yeah, it's. I think the race is gonna suck.
I mean, no, I'm not saying it's going to be a great race, but that's what I'm saying. That I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. It's not going to be a great weekend. I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Let's get into Martinsville before we get into
Um,
trouble here.
so I actually have some more news on the street course that literally uh, came out today, not too long ago.
Okay.
Um, it came out actually an hour ago, and a little less than an hour ago, about 30 minutes ago. So,
Oh boy.
NASCAR officials plan to modify race cars, limit track time, and wrap up festivities by 10 p.m. in an effort to limit noise and crowding for the summer race slated to take over part of Grant Park for several weeks. Um,
Wow.
the new details about the preparation and daily schedule for the July 1st through 2nd race were shared with residents at a Wednesday night community meeting, the first with neighbors hosted by NASCAR officials and city leaders. Neighbors flooded officials with questions on noise reduction, park, and late front access, along with the race logistics during the hour-long meeting. Um, to combat high noise levels, race cars will be retrofitted with special mufflers that are expected to decrease the noise by 10 decibels, according to Julie Geis,
That's not
president
gonna
of
do
the
much.
NASCAR Street Course. Yeah, well, like you said, one and done. The sounds at a NASCAR race can be around 100 to 130 decibel, depending on your distance from the track. According to various reports, a range of 100 to 120 decibels is roughly equivalent to a bulldozer or motorcycle. What? And festivals like Lollapalooza can reach around 115. Basically, just saying NASCAR has tested and mitigated noise in the big cities. NASCAR also expects the festivities to be completed by 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. each night, with the likeliness of things concluding before that on July 2nd. RVs and camping out will also be prohibited. We've been really diligent in trying to be as thoughtful as possible on the track schedule, keeping less than 10 hours of track time. It says practice and qualifying will begin around 10 a.m. July 1st. The Xfinity Series race will take place 4 to 6 p.m., followed by Chainsmokers concert at 7 p.m.
4 to 6
The
p.m. Why?
well, it's Central Time, so it's 3 to 5
Still.
my time. Miranda Lambert concert kicks off at 12:03 on July 2nd, with the Cup Series race then going from 4:30 to 8 p.m.
What are these
Wow,
start times?
I don't know. It's very strange. It says to ensure safety, guests and people walking along the course will be fully enclosed by an 8-foot fence and barrier system, similar to what's used for other large events in and around Grant Park, officials said.
What are we gonna do for lighting? Because I'm sure it's gonna get pretty dark around that time. I don't understand why we're starting at 4 o'clock.
Well, they do have street lights.
I mean, but that's my question. Like, do we know how well those are gonna work on a? I mean, I would say it doesn't really matter, but I mean, these cars literally don't have headlights, so I don't know. That's not my
You want to know
problem, I
why they
guess.
don't need headlights?
Because the track is always lit. There you go.
Been
I
waiting.
think
I've been
my
waiting for that moment my whole life.
I think my favorite article that I've read out of this whole Chicago street course was there was a museum of some sort that was complaining that they thought the vibrations from the cars was going to cause damage to the exhibit. So when I heard that, that's how I pretty much knew that the city did not want us there. So it's going to be a weekend. Say that for sure.
And another, just in case people live around the area, it says NASCAR will mail need-to-know information on the upcoming race to over 42,000 addresses in and around the course footprint in the upcoming weeks.
It's going to be loud.
And
Don't leave your house.
that article was by Melody Mercado, Block Club Chicago .org. So if you want to read that article, that is where it's at. But it's a pretty long article. Of course, I wasn't going to continue reading the rest of it. I kind of just went through and read the stuff that I thought was important to know. So little news.
Yeah, that's just gonna get more and more interesting as we get closer for sure. So that's gonna be a fun one to watch as the year continues on here. All right, let's get into this because we got a full weekend of racing we got to cover here. So let you go first. Who are you picking for the Saturday race for the truck race?
I might as well call it Sunday at this point.
Yeah. Well, Saturday looks the best, a 24% chance of rain. Sunday is 53 with it looks like PM showers. So I assume rain is going to be starting closer to night. So
The one thing I do want to point out for as a truck wise is how bad GMS racing has become in the truck series. Like I feel bad for Daniel Dye. Like after he punched that kid in the crotch last year, his career has really went downhill. But even my man Raja, I mean, man, those things are always they break. I don't think either of them have had a race where something didn't break without them actually doing anything. But as far as my pick, I'm gonna go with Ty Majeski.
all right, that is a good pick. See, you got Brad Perez making his oval track debut this weekend in the 20 truck.
That's Brad Perez.
I just read it off the thing. I knew it was Brett. I like the fact that people got upset when Brad
Hey,
changed his name on his name reel to Bread.
I like that RFK contacted. I think that shows a really good sign of respect. So I do appreciate that.
I'm gonna go Bean Rahodes for the truck race.
Who?
Ben Rhodes.
Bean Rahodes.
Bean Rahodes.
I'm sure. I'm sure I'll never ever want to be called that ever again.
No. All right, who are you picking for the Xfinity race here?
uh,
Also, is this a night race? Well, actually, I guess it's going to become a night race. Yeah, it was going to be a night race anyway, 7:30 p.m.
This
Guess
one
that's why they had it so late. They knew
is.
that the truck race was going to probably happen that same morning.
You're probably right. I'm actually gonna go. I gotta steal your pick. I'm gonna go with Josh Berry.
It's a good pick. Good pick. I'm gonna take a chance on this one. I'm gonna go Brandon Jones because he won this race last year and he should have won the second race last year. So he should have swept. He didn't though because his teammate decided that he no longer wanted teammates.
That is true. One thing I want to point out about the Xfinity series, real quick, just kind of hit on it. So we know that over the offseason that JRM switched the crew chiefs around,
Mm-hmm.
and their performance has not been very good. So I think that'll be rather interesting to continue to kind of go forward.
And do keep in mind, probably not directly related, but there was a change made to the Xfinity cars last year as well.
Very true,
So
very true. But I do think that it is kind of odd though that they changed the crew chiefs around and their performance on every aspect, strategy wise, and race
the only
speed just hasn't really been there. So I do look for a JRM this weekend to make a big step forward. But
the
I
only
do think there's
thing
a few people on this list. Go ahead, Justin.
I was gonna say the only thing I can add to that is I know that Josh Berry and Taylor Moyer have had pretty good communication. So if anything, those two have been solid. So
I do want to
you
point
got a
out.
good pick going into Martinsville is what I'm trying to say.
I know.
I'm trying to
I
bump or
stole.
amp you up.
I'm like, I got to do it to him, at least once. I do want to say there are quite a few, cars to kind of look out for this weekend. Just like notable, Derek Cross is going to be in the 10. Stephen Parsons going to be in the 07. Parker Retzlaff in the 31. We know that he's pretty good on the short track stuff. So I think there's a few names on there that may surprise us by the end of the race.
We both picked Xfinity. Okay, yeah, let's move on to Cup on Sunday. I'm so glad that they made this a Sunday race, by the way, because I was not ready for another night race to just be 400 laps of upshift, downshift. Hey, checkered flag, that's great.
Oh, I don't know why NASCAR just didn't eliminate that over the winter break.
Because
I
NASCAR
ran.
doesn't know what they want.
Let me tell you, again, I'm not a professional driver, and Martinsville is probably one of my worst tracks on iRacing, and somehow finished top 5, and it's solely because all I had to do was downshift. Because I had, I missed the corner. You could just downshift, and it
Well, doesn't
just kind of
iRacing? Never mind.
made it strange.
That's
But
right.
yeah,
They blocked out 5th, not 4th. Whatever I was thinking. I will note that Josh Berry is listed as the driver of the 9, but as we said earlier, he will be Chase Elliott will be making his return this week. So with that, who were you picking?
man, I don't know.
I know who I'm picking, so
I'll let you go first then.
you're just gonna give it to me.
Yep.
All right, we're going Willie B.
Willie B. That is a good one. I am actually, man, I honestly don't know. I'm gonna go Kevin Harvick.
Interesting. Okay.
Now, the one thing I will say that this track um, resembles the Clash more than, say, Richmond did. So I will
True.
be extremely curious if the cars that ran well in the Clash, like Ryan Preece, Martin Truex Jr., I wonder if they will be as strong. Because I think at points in times they were the two best cars there. I'll be curious if Austin Dillon runs well. I think this will be a good weekend for Eric Amarola as well. This is kind of one of his types of racetracks where he just kind of shows up in the top, 7 to 10. I do want to say that Denny Hamlin guaranteed that he was going on a run on his podcast from yesterday. So definitely something to watch out for.
Good stuff. All right. Well, I think that covers it from this week. Anything else that we want to tie up real quick before we take it home here?
Let's see. We
I
got
know we got
MotoGP this Sunday at Circuit of the Americas. We got IndyCar
Long
and
Beach.
yeah, at Long Beach, as well as IMSA as at Long Beach as well. One of my favorite IMSA races over the year. Supercross is at Atlanta, and if you're gonna pick a Supercross race to watch, it's got to be this Saturday. The Supercross tracks at Atlanta are pretty gnarly. Uh, definitely worth a watch. And then of course NASCAR over the weekend, and then F1's not back till the following week. So. But other than that, that's pretty much all for me.
Good stuff. I got nothing new to announce. Probably not going to Long Beach this weekend. So
Shameful.
yeah, I know. That's right. All right. With that, I think that's it. Michael, you can take us home here.
As always, thank you guys so much for watching and listening to the 500 Mile podcast. Make sure you please like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. Let us know what we're doing wrong. Let us know what you like that we're doing. We will gladly take the criticism and the compliments. But as always, my name is Michael. His name is Justin. Have a wonderful week of racing, and we'll catch you next week.